You could work for like 3 years and then you see it pay off in like 3 months. There's always something that's going to make you feel like, oh man, we're not anywhere near where we could be or need to be.
If you can find someone that is doing the thing that you want to be doing, your journey will be accelerated by 10x.
If you're willing to do the hard work and you're willing to find people to teach you, you're going to get somewhere.
Don't just go to someone and be like, hey, can you help me get there? Provide value.
We were once just two guys, picked up a camera and started doing something.
Relationships have to be symbiotic. If you become a parasite, nobody will want to help you.
Are you a businessman or are you a technician?
There will be stages in which you can't really afford the best talent. You're gonna have to figure out ways to keep people excited.
Because if you're a technician and you're just about the art, there's businessmen that will hire you. But if you're a business person who also does filming, then you're probably more equipped to do the entrepreneur freelance type life.
If you're new here, my name is Nelson and I'm the host of the Creative Grid podcast. Basically, I'm a creative entrepreneur that just decided to quit everything to pursue his passion of making videos. And today I have my video production business, Vice Creative. I make a full-time living. And the whole purpose of this podcast is to help other creative entrepreneurs to achieve their dreams, success, and anything they want in life. In order to do so, we usually have extraordinary guests to help us identify the different tools and methods to achieve your goals and dreams. Today is not exception. Today's guest is a photographer, filmmaker, creative director, and one of the owners of the incredible Moonboy Studios. Please welcome the legend, the incredible Jacob Peterson. How are you, my man?
I'm good, man. That is quite the introduction.
Yeah, do you like it? Was it good enough? Good enough?
I'm like ready to go now. I like that.
Nice,
I like that.
nice. I needed to pump you up.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. How are you, bro? What's been happening? How did we meet? Let's tell people how did we meet.
We met at an Eternal MMA event. We were just filming.
Yes.
Yeah, and I guess I guess over time, right? Every few months, we just keep seeing each other and be like, oh, what's up? You know, what have you been up to? But then I found interesting, we'd always have like very like the chats wouldn't just be like surface level. Like it'd go like, oh, you know, like straight into like talking about like creative stuff and like things that's been going on and then business stuff and everything, you know? So it like, yeah, I kind of was like, oh, okay, this guy, like you're on that level. And I was listening to one of your last podcasts and you're like on that level where you're obsessed with it. You know, like I feel like you're kind of very much in that lane because as soon as you find someone who's doing something that you kind of recognize, oh, they're doing some good stuff, your questions and the way you talk to them, like, it kind of angles towards how do I like get knowledge and like get some, I guess, context about how they're doing things and stuff, you know?
Yeah, 100%. And that's one thing that you can't underestimate if you're being like even a freelancer or just an entrepreneur or someone that is trying to build a business. Like, man, just networking and understanding what other people in your field, in your industry are doing. How are they doing it? Why are they doing it that way? You know, how are they running their business? Like the little intricacies that could potentially, you know, provide some value to you and trying to even provide some value as well to them. You know, I never try to talk to someone about all this stuff and not provide. You know, I always try my best at engage in an interaction that is not superficial, you know, of just like, oh, what camera are you using or whatever. Those are not quality questions. You know, learn to ask quality questions, and that could be, you know, that could vary depending on your industry or what you're trying to achieve, or from being filmmaker or photographer or designer or whatever. But learn to ask questions that are gonna actually make some sort of difference to the current trajectory that you're on.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's important. And I think it's also like it differentiates you from like every other person you would meet in that situation. Because when you're shooting an event like that, you're meeting probably like a whole bunch of new people. But like people who ask interesting questions and you get like this deeper sort of like conversation with, you're going to remember them, you know?
Yeah.
And that's how like, I guess like we've kind of messaged here and there on Instagram between then. But every time we catch up, we're still talking like it was like, yeah, I don't know. It always seemed like really good quality kind of conversations and stuff, you know.
That's awesome, brother. Yeah, no, and I knew about you guys, and someone told me, I think that we met, like, or maybe it was you by talking like, oh, I work with Moonboy and stuff. And I'm like, oh, I've seen the work that you guys produce, and it's incredible. It's incredible. If you guys haven't checked that out, definitely go and have a look at Moonboy Studios. These guys are legends of what they do. We're gonna get into it, but first, for people that have never heard anything about you, can you give us a story of who you are and how you got to where you are right now?
Yeah, sure. I guess my name's Jacob, from Brisbane. Pretty much been there my whole life, which I want to change soon, maybe. Who knows, But I guess yeah, just started off with like this. Always kind of been artistic, always kind of been creative and stuff like that, But yeah, it wasn't until picking up a camera and just kind of being like, oh, okay, maybe this is what I'm interested in, From there, just started shooting stuff, Didn't really like. I studied multimedia, which had a bit of video stuff in there, but most of it was like a whole bunch of different stuff. But I think picking up a camera and starting and just networking and shooting and editing and learning from your mistakes and finding other people who can offer you more like information and like, oh, hey, you're doing this wrong, try this, like those kind of things, So yeah, just meeting a lot of people along the way, and yeah, found a job at Culture Kings, which is like a streetwear business, and I was there for nearly 5 years. That helped really like grow my skill set, I guess, doing something every day all the time.
You were taking charge of like all the creative aspects of their business, or what?
I guess just mainly the video part. But like before I was there was no other full-time person. So there was no blueprint. There was no like, you need to fill these shoes or anything like that. It was kind of like, oh yeah, we have a video guy now. Let's see what he can do. And then it was kind of quite open to me, like whatever they needed video of, just having free reign to try and create something cool, So I guess having that freedom as well to kind of like learn, make mistakes, try new things, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And then have that being your job as well, So I guess like that was very valuable as well. But yeah, kind of stepped away from that about 2 years ago, just to join up with Moonboy, whose name's Kevin. And he'd been working with a close friend of mine who left Culture Kings a little bit earlier as well. So they were both kind of in my ear, hey, when are you going to come? You should join up with us. We're going to do cool shit, So yeah, then joined up with Kevin, and just, been working on music videos, brand campaigns, just whatever sort of comes our way, really, So yeah, trying to always push the boundaries though, trying to grow with every project and stuff like that. But yeah, that's a quick rundown, I guess.
Yeah, no, and it's clear when you look at the work that you guys are producing these days that you're 100% pushing the boundaries. Every video is very different to the last one. I kind of went through the latest stuff that you guys been producing, and man, it's unreal. Like the videos that you made, the last music video was that one in Sydney, I think it was.
Yeah, it was an artist called SL who's from the UK.
Yeah. Man, it was incredible. And the amount, the level of work that you guys put in post-production.
Oh, that's all Kevin, but yeah.
Dude, he's a wizard.
He is.
He's a wizard. We'll definitely love to have you on the podcast, Kevin. If you're watching this,
you gotta get a hold of him.
Let's organize that. But yeah, so what's your role within Moonboy? And before I forget, how much were you being paid as a full-time videographer for that company before?
Full-time, I mean, when I started, I was just looking for something a little bit more than what I was doing already. I was just like working for a family business doing graphic design, and this job came about. Did a trial. They were like, "Cool, we liked what you did for the trial. How much do you want?"
They asked you,
yeah. Well, they're like, "What would you be expecting salary wise?" And I was like, "Oh, this is what I earn now." So I just went up a little bit and then landed that. By the time I left, I mean, I think I was on maybe between 80 and 90,000 a year, which is, it's pretty good for full-time doing video, I guess. But yeah, kind of felt like having more freedom and building something that I'm kind of more of a part of, I guess.
Yes.
Was kind of more valuable. So, and also just learning, Kevin's a good editor, and like the way he sees things and breaks things down when we're shooting and stuff, and lights, and the way he lights things up, and just everything, like he has like a very, very focused orientated mind, like very detail orientated across shooting and editing. So just trying to like learn from him as well, and just level up my video skills and video production skills, I guess. That was also a reason, because working in a business, it's quite fast paced, and it's like you shoot something in the morning, sometimes you're editing it and delivering that afternoon.
Yes.
And it's kind of like, okay, next, not much time to break things down and really go deep and learn new things and implement new things in that kind of environment,
Or even storytelling, hey.
Yeah, even the storytelling part, like you can't really write out, like I say, you can't write out a full campaign kind of breakdown thing, because it's kind of like, just go shoot it in the city and shoot it and then turn it around. They post on social media and it's done. You know what's next.
Yeah.
So yeah, quite a quick paced environment, but they both have different values. You know, it's like one teaches you to be fast and get things done and not always focus on perfection. And now coming into this environment, everything's kind of like, okay, how do we make this as good as it can be? You know, so yeah, I think it's good to have both sort of mindsets though. And it's like, how do you balance them? I guess trying to balance all of it is always the difficulty, right? But
so when you get into Moonboy Studios, what has been your role? How does it usually work for you?
I guess we kind of came to a realization, like I was editing a few things here and there, but like Kevin is like a really, really good editor. Like I would say he's probably one of the best in Australia at editing, like the VFX, the VFX and like the amount of like work in After Effects that he can do. So I kind of realized fairly quickly that like I'm probably not built for that, because like I'm kind of more across multiple things, and it's probably from being in the fast-paced environment. I'm kind of like, you know, you're editing something but you're answering the email and you're planning something else, you know. Whereas like Kevin's really good at just sitting down. He can sit down and just edit for like 10 hours straight, you know. And it's like I see that and I'm like, I can't do that. And to get to his level I would have to do that. And I'm like, oh, I don't think I can do that, you know. So like we kind of had a talk, and it's kind of like, okay, like because I'm more across things like that, I can probably be more value in pre-production, coming up with ideas, running the meetings, pre-producing, just organizing that sort of front end of the project. Then shoot days usually like Kevin will be like directing. I'll kind of like, if I've led it up to there, I might direct a bit as well. We have different people who shoot. Sometimes we get a DOP on board if there's enough budget for like a higher camera package, like an Arri or a Red or something like that, you know. So it's very much like kind of using our network to plug people into certain roles on projects that we think is going to make the best outcome, you know. So yeah, I guess my value lately has sort of been more in the pre-production thing, and even in post-production, just trying to like keep things going, you know. Sending things to colorists, getting it back, getting in color, just kind of making sure things are moving, I guess, as well, you know.
Which is still a crucial part of every shoot. I think it's one of the most undervalued segments, you know, pre-production, and a lot of people, especially at the beginning, will be overlooking like, oh, it's okay, I'll get it done when I get there. I'll come up with you know, the different shot list and whatever in my head. It's like, nobody, you know, it's just you're gonna probably pay. I mean, like
you could even I'm gonna say in like the last few months we've had stuff where it's like, okay, we're making the shot list the night before, but like we know what the outcome is. I think that's the thing. Like we all kind of have been across the idea. We know what the outcome is, and then it's okay. We just put down the thing so we can tick it off and make sure we're getting what we need, you know. But everyone kind of knows, they have it in their head. It might be a different version of it, but the outcome is very kind of, okay, this is what we're doing. Because you kind of, you know, if you're working with an agency, you get briefs, or if you're working with an artist, you kind of send them a treatment, and then you kind of get that, and that's like the recipe, right? So you have like the recipe of what you're trying to create.
And as long as you're very clear with the end result of how, okay, what are we trying to portray with that video, and like what exactly are the type of shots and the transitions, like if you can define exactly where you're trying to get, it's easier, because then it's just pre-production is basically what are the steps for us to get there. You know, oh, okay, if we want to do that transition, we need to do this and this. If we want that type of look, we're going to use these lenses, this stuff. You know, like if you are very clear on that outcome, it's very easier to get there and put in the different steps.
Yeah, exactly. Like you can reverse engineer it nearly, you know. And I guess that's also like across a lot of things that I guess you would do as a creative. You know, you see something like, how do they do that? And then you reverse engineer it and you're like, okay, this is how I can do it, and this is how I think I can do it, you know. So I think it's just that, you know, like you see an idea, okay, you break it down, and even if it's something like, you know, it's green screened and like composited or something, you know, how do we break that down so we can try and achieve something similar? Even though it seems like it might be like Marvel movie level production or whatever it is, you know. How can we achieve it with you know, a fraction of the budget?
Exactly. Just off camera, we were talking about your creative style, and you said a few very interesting things. What would you say about like how does someone develop their own artistic style?
I guess what we were talking about was like high fashion campaigns, right? And how like I'd always seen some stuff like in high fashion campaigns and whatever it is, and it kind of feels like it's not always clean, and it's not always like you see it and you're like, oh, I don't know if that was good. Like I know it was okay, but like it didn't feel like it was like a good video. But then like I was just saying to you, like I'd seen something in the last like maybe month or so where it was like by picking certain things and by adding certain imperfections to something, it can create like its own style and its own kind of thing and make it unique. And it's like if everyone knows how to make a perfect video and they all doing that, then everything's going to be the same. So it's like maybe if you break the rules, you can kind of come up with something different and unique. So yeah, I guess like seeing that and kind of thinking about that and having that in the back of my mind over the last month or so, it's like, oh, okay, how do we break those rules, and how do you do something that might be not technically right, you know? Like, it might be like kind of like, oh, that's not really how it should be done. But then you come out with a different result that no one's seen before. So
Yes.
yeah, I think throughout like all of our maybe like the last 2 years or so on this journey, it's kind of been, you know, okay, like you see like ASAP Rocky does a video, and then someone, you know, everyone refers to it and they're like, oh, okay, this video, we like this, you know. Okay, yeah, well, cool. We'll try and do our version of that, you know. So you do it, make it a little bit different, add some stuff to it, and then you have this video. But then everyone wants that video, and then now like we've done it, so we've already ticked it off, and we're like, oh, we don't really want to do that again, you know. But it's kind of like how do you come up with something and like mesh different concepts together to come up with something that's kind of unique, right? So
Yes.
yeah.
No, that's awesome, dude. You guys are masters, specialists at the music video side of things, right? Probably the best in Australia, I would say, or one of the best easily, especially when it comes to hip hop videos. Because I don't think I've seen you guys done like a different genre. Have you
Yeah.
guys done?
Man, I don't think we've strayed far from hip hop.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess it's just kind of that niche that we ended up in, and one that we enjoy, obviously. Like like I enjoy the music and stuff like that, and we ended up having a few connections with different artists through people in our team as well, you know. So from that, I guess it was kind of a lane that we found ourselves in, but it wasn't by mistake, I guess, you know. Yeah.
How do you guys come up, like every time you have a new client, a new artist, how do you come up with a new concept? I've showed, I think, in the past 7 years, maybe 3 music videos, honestly. And like, I notice how a few things can make it very challenging, like bringing the idea of the artist itself sometimes can be quite complex. But also, if the music is terrible, you gotta spend the entire day just listening to the same song on repeat.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're pretty blessed to sort of not have had anything really where it's like, oh, this song isn't good, you know. Like it's all like, I guess since early on we've kind of been at a certain level where the names, all of our names combining, there was me, like there was first off it was Moonboy and Carlin Leota, so like Kevin and Carlin. And then Carlin had connections to like HP Boys and a few different artists like this who are kind of higher up in the Australian hip hop scene. And then like there's never really been anything that's sort of that we've done where it's kind of been like, oh, this song, I don't know if we like it, you know. Like everything's been like songs that we like, you know. So I guess, and maybe that's from us being like, oh, we don't like that song, we'll just not do it, or whatever it might be, you know. Or like maybe the timing's off and we just end up lucky to have songs that we actually like, oh, okay, this is cool, we can do something with this, you know. So yeah, and I guess coming up with ideas, like the original question, like coming up with ideas has kind of been a different thing. Like sometimes it's like you get the track, okay, cool, you listen to it, ask them, do they have any ideas, and then see what they say, and then like if their idea is good, then you can start from there, and that's like the baseline. And then how do we like make it our own, you know? How do we try and do things different, and whatever it might be, you know? So sometimes they have no ideas and it's just up to us, you know? So at that stage, you'll kind of come up with like maybe 3 different ideas and sort of pitch them to someone and be like, okay, like, you know, we were thinking something like this or like this or like this. What do you think's cool? And let them kind of decide which path we go down, you know? Because at the end of the day, it's their music, they have to you know, they have to come to the shoot, they have to post the shoot, they have to post the video, they have to be happy with it because it's their music and everything like that, and they're paying for it, right? So you don't want to kind of be like, no, we're doing this and just like telling someone what to do. It kind of has to be like, oh, you know, like here's what we want to do. Are you down? You know?
Yeah. What do you think?
Yeah, and I think like once you kind of reach a certain level of like having like a track record, I think it's a lot easier to kind of go like, oh, we should do this, and people go, yep, sweet.
Yeah, we trust you.
Yeah, which is kind of like at the start, it's not like that though. Yeah, at the start, it's like they're kind of like, oh, I don't really know who this guy is, and like he doesn't really have much work in this lane, which is what like I think we found individually when we first started. You know, it's kind of like, yeah, all these people who pay like, you know, $500 for a music video, but then kind of want to like direct it themselves and make sure it's their vision and stuff. And then like you're doing stuff now where it's like 10, 12, 15K for a music video. And then it's like, they just say, yeah, do whatever you want because we trust you, you know? So it's like,
what's the minimum that you guys charge these days?
Like, I guess it's like between like 12 to 15 for a music video. Yeah, that's kind of where it's been sitting at lately. But
which I thought was insane, by the way, because I think you guys are in a position of authority that you have the entire leverage. Like you guys could be charging literally as much as you want just because you're so good at it. There's not many people doing it probably at the level I personally haven't seen. You probably have seen because you're more in depth in that industry. But you know, there wouldn't be that many people doing it in Australia at the level that you guys are doing it. So that already gives you a lot of leverage, right?
Yeah, true. I guess it's kind of like it always comes back to like how much can people in that industry afford though, as well,
of course, yeah.
And how much are they willing to, you know, like yeah, if you get a lot of even the top artists in Australia, if they come to you with an idea or a song and then you tell them 15 grand or 18 or whatever it might be, like, you know, it's a lot of money to some of these guys, you know. So like I guess for us it's also a reason why we're trying to do a little bit less music videos and a little bit more brand campaigns. So
you're transitioning, you would say.
We're trying to get more into like the brand campaign kind of like kind of side of things, and like how do we bring our flavor and like how we can do things and involving 3D and effects and different things. How do we bring that across to this brand campaign space and offer something new? And I guess we think it'd be like a bit refreshing, like our style.
Yes.
Bring it across and applying it to certain brands, you know. Yeah. I guess we probably wouldn't be the best thing for every brand because like certain brands might want like cleaner stuff or you know, like artsy stuff we were saying, you know. Yeah. So that's probably not our style, but like if it's something that's in like the streetwear space or music space or whatever it is, probably something that we can come in and bring our skill set to and just have a fresh take on it, I guess, you know. So and it's also like, I mean, it's less work, bro. You know, not that we'd want to work less.
No, but just for sake of profitability of the business.
Exactly, yeah. Like from a business standpoint. Yeah. It's like, you know, like these brand campaigns are usually like a one-day thing because it's got models, it's got hair and makeup. There's a lot of costs that go into each day of shooting, you know. So it's either a 1 or 2 day thing, and the budgets are usually in like, say, you know, you could get $20,000+ for a brand campaign like that or something, you know. Take that back to a music video and it's like 12 grand and you're shooting across 4 days. And then, you know, like the difference is also on usually like a brand campaign's from an agency and they organize like locations and stuff and they organize talent, they organize every other aspect of it. And then you're just rocking up and doing what you do, which is create and shoot and make sure it's good, you know. And then the other side is with music videos, it's all on you. You're organizing cars, locations, extras, you know, like you'd imagine like, oh, you know, an artist, how hard would it be to get 30 people to show up? But sometimes it's hard, you know, it's hard to get people on set to just kind of be in a shot where you want energy and stuff, you know, from like a bunch of extras in the shots. But yeah, there's both sides of it. And it's kind of like, we've just been thinking and it's like, well, you know, and I guess there's one other aspect to it too, which is like something we just realized. It's like kind of like if you do something for an artist, it gets seen by their circle. But if you do something for a brand, the brand's probably got a bigger circle, right? Like if you're doing something for a guy and he's got, you know, 100,000 followers on Instagram or something, it's kind of like, okay, cool. He's got 100,000 people that might see that. But if you're doing something for like a Foot Locker or, you know, one of those kind of brands, you think, oh, half of Australia might know the word Foot Locker.
Yes.
There's more brand recognition to it, and more like, oh, Foot Locker, I know who that is. I don't know who this guy from this rapper is, So yeah, I think like there's that kind of aspect to it too, and it's kind of like it'll help grow our brand to more of a thing where people recognize it, So
and I think it's important as well when you're trying to define like the lane that you're gonna be taking, that it is a profitable lane. In Japan they have this concept called ikigai. I don't know if you have heard of it, but it's basically like the meeting point that represents like living a fulfilling life by doing something you love, something that the market needs, the world needs, that people are willing to pay for. And the other one is there's one more circle I can't remember. Oh, something that you're good at.
You're good at, yeah.
So the conjunction of all of that makes ikigai. And it's important when you're choosing your creative lane, let's say you're a filmmaker or something, that you're choosing one that the market needs. It's just going to make your life easier. Like in terms of music videos, someone told me a long time when I was getting started, like, whatever you do, don't choose. They told me a couple industries, and one of them was music videos. Because it's too hard, man. It's too hard to make it, because in order to really have making lots of money, you're gonna need to work with the top of the artists, because usually they don't have enough money. Usually they're self-funded as well. Sometimes it could be like a label. I don't know if it's how is it working for you guys, but they usually don't want to spend much money on it as well. So I remember a guy telling me like, don't choose either of those, go for somewhere else. Even weddings was one of them, like that. Usually they have like a ceiling, unless you get into luxury weddings, but how many people are actually doing, like a wedding that is 20K or 50K or something like that?
Exactly.
So there's other industries that are more profitable in that sense, but it's always good to choose the one that you actually love, that you enjoy doing it, that you're good at it, because that's the other thing. I'm not as good as making music videos like you guys. I'm good at other stuff. So making sure that you're choosing a lane in which you're also good at, that the market needs, but you're also really good at doing it. I'm curious, what are the biggest business lessons you have learned since working in Moonboy?
In terms of like money, or just like in general?
I think business in general.
Business in general. I mean, like we've kind of like, I guess the vision that Kevin had was kind of like growing a team and stuff like that. And like we talked about this last time and stuff. And I guess it's kind of like you can't always have people like, I guess it's also a thing where our business model, it kind of funnels through Kevin as an editor, because he's kind of like the key piece that makes our videos what they are, like the editing, the VFX, all that kind of stuff. That's usually why people are coming to us, So that kind of limits how much projects we can actually take on, because it's kind of like no matter how much we shoot, only one guy can edit, So it's kind of been like a thing that we've kind of, do we drop the level down and let like, say if I was to edit one to a certain point, and then he helps fix it up and stuff, like is that a viable option, or is it viable to get like someone completely different to edit them as well, But then it's kind of like, will it dilute the standard or whatever it is, things like that. So like we got to a point where we've sort of had a team, and then some of the guys have gone and done their own thing and started doing their own music videos, which is cool as well, So I guess what I'm trying to say is like, you can't always have this vision and think that everyone's just going to be along for the ride, It's kind of like people will come and go. And I guess for us, it was kind of like every time someone kind of left, in a sense, it was like, oh damn, like you feel like you failed in a sense, either like you failed them by not giving them enough work or whatever it might be, But I think from that, it kind of also opened up the door for Kevin's concept, at least, of still being able to learn from people, right? So like if you don't have to bring a whole team to a shoot, there's a bit of extra money that you can put towards maybe someone who's a better DOP with a better camera, with a focus puller, first AC guy pulling focus remotely, all this kind of stuff, which will lead to a better end product too, So there's both sides to it, like we felt like we wanted to get this team and everyone's learning, everyone's pushing it, and then, you know, take everyone around the world.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like, oh, is it too hard? Is it too,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. I think that was like kind of one of the lessons we had to learn, like that people will come and go, and it's kind of, you know, just something you have to kind of be okay with. But it's also, I guess, about like being better leaders too. You know, I think that might be a thing that a few of us might have had to sort of tackle, and something we're still learning to do. Maybe, you know, is like, how do you keep people engaged? How do you keep people involved? Feeling like no one's being left out of something, even though like there's no budget or there might not be a need to have them on board for that certain thing. You know, how do you kind of keep everyone motivated, moving, all that kind of stuff, you know, which is something quite foreign to us, because we've always been the ones who are in the position of being motivated by either a boss or by a paycheck or by whatever it is, you know. So yeah, I think that's something that we've kind of like been sort of juggling over the last 6 to 8 months, even the last year, maybe, just kind of a few people coming, being involved in a few things and going. Money wise, I think it's also just learning that kind of like the more you charge, the more people care. You know, the more you charge someone for something, the more dedicated they are, the more they're going to show up, the more they're going to be involved and help, because they have more skin in the game. You know, so that's why like we weren't afraid to sort of start putting up our prices, because it was like, okay, you know, you think, oh, like we were thinking when the prices hit 10K for a video, we're like, oh, you know, it's a bit like, is it a bit much? You know, that kind of thing. But we found that like the people who were willing to pay it were also more helpful. You know, they'd go and find something if you tell them you need something, or, you know, they'd go and sort all their outfits out and sort things out that you needed sorted out, because they know they're paying this much and they want it to be good. Whereas when we were charging like a little bit, people wouldn't show up on time. They wouldn't help out with stuff. They'd be like, oh yeah, I forgot to do that. Sorry. And you're like, we needed you to pay this location for this day, you know? Yeah. So I think those are 2 lessons. Like there's probably a lot more, man. There's probably so many more, but those are 2 ones that we've kind of had like recently that I guess would be like lessons. And then I guess what we were talking about earlier, you don't all need to be across everything. You know, like you can find a certain area where you have more value and you're able to push things further than you can in another area. And then if you can find people to cover those bases, I guess you're going to kind of work as a team better, rather than everyone having their hands on everything. Because it gets a bit messy, you know, as well. You know?
100%.
It gets a bit messy. Like even sometimes if I'm like on an email thread and then I miss out on an email and then Kevin jumps in, it kind of feels like, oh, it's getting messy, because it's like, or if he's on emails, I don't want to jump in because it might feel like it's kind of confusing whoever's on the other end and stuff, you know. So yeah, even that kind of thing, like kind of just finding certain parts of the business where, you know, okay, I can handle this, you can handle this, we can handle that. And then whatever isn't being handled, you kind of go, okay, we need to try and find someone to fill that role, which is where we're at now, I think, you know, trying to get like a social media editor maybe, or like social media, someone who can edit and post, you know, just because posting's not hard, but when you're in the...
It's just time consuming.
Yeah, exactly. When you're doing the stuff, like you're documenting as well, but then it's the editing and the posting that kind of falls off, you know, so... Yeah, like we have a few BTS sort of videos that we do, and we have like maybe 3 now from projects from the last 6 months, and they're done nearly, you know. They just need the final touches and to be posted. And we're kind of like, oh, every time it's like you remember it and you're like, oh, I should do that tomorrow. But then tomorrow you're thinking about what's next. So it's kind of like you need someone there to kind of focus on that. Which is yeah. And then I was listening to your podcast with Tom and Tom Noski. Yeah. And then
shout out to brother Tom.
Yeah. I was listening to that on the way here, just to sort of like get a vibe for everything, and he was talking about that exact thing. And I was like, oh wow, okay, yeah. This is something that it's not just us trying to struggle with something like that. It's like a lot of people are thinking, hey, I'm not the best at this, and this. I need to find someone who is, you know. So.
Yes, completely agree, man. And the more you look into the problems, the obstacles that creatives experience, the more you realize we're all going through the same stuff, you know, just packaged in a different way. But we all go through the same exact issues, the same exact obstacles, everything you mentioned, you know, learning about leadership, how to keep the team motivated. I've gone through that in the past year. You know, how do I get people excited on being on a project? How do I get the right people? How do I become the best possible leader when we are on a shoot, you know, to set the tone for everyone and to give their best, because sometimes you're outsourcing someone, so it's not directly their client. So I have had the people that, you know, don't bring their best. I've had the people that bring their A game, and usually the difference is me. You know, it's
true.
my attitude is me kind of like letting them know and like educating them on how important is what we're doing, you know, and trying to, in a way as well, get them involved in a deeper way than just money, you know, because yes, money is important, I think, in order to get the right people on board. But there will be also stages in which you can't really afford the best talent. So you're going to have to figure out ways to keep people excited and motivated, you know, and kind of trying to paint the big picture, you know, of what are we trying to do? You know, I was trying to explain to one of the guys that's working with me that it's like a rocket ship, you know, right now you're trying to fucking get to space.
Yeah.
But before getting to space, you know, you have to build the freaking rocket. You gotta put the fuel, you know, you gotta break off and, you know, try to break the atmosphere, the stratosphere and all of that before you can get to space. And it's gonna get rocky, it's gonna get difficult, it's gonna get hot, you know, but eventually we're gonna break through, we're gonna make it to space, and we're gonna be cruising. You know, we don't need that much energy to keep the momentum going.
It's a good analogy.
Yes.
It's a good analogy for like the momentum, like the keeping things moving and stuff. And how, I guess, how like you could work for like 3 years and then you see it pay off in like 3 months.
Yes.
Or even longer. You could work for 5 years or 6 years.
Yes.
Like Tom was saying in that podcast, like he's worked for like 6 years and realized that he was broke for 6 years. And then in the last 6 months, he was saying that he's like, oh, everything's good. You know, money's good. Like things are going well. And it's like, it does snowball, but you might not realize it unless you take a step back and kind of see, you know, here's where I was, here's where we're going, you know?
Yeah.
And I think it is difficult though. It is difficult to sell people on that, you know?
Yes.
Not that you got to sell them, but like it's difficult to get them in that same mindset where, you know, I think between like Kevin and I at the moment, we think anything's possible, you know?
Yes.
And we think, like you were saying, to get bigger budgets, it's not in Australia anymore for us.
Yes.
Unless we start going, we either have to go more mainstream with music to more like pop and things like that have more budget behind them and bigger labels behind them, or we have to go overseas where there's more money in the sound that we're in, you know? So like, that's kind of like what we're trying to kind of do towards the end of the year, middle of the year. It's kind of like one of those things that's in the back of our mind always, like how do we get to the UK and do something
to the highest level?
You know, how do we get one thing where we're out of Australia doing something? Because we feel like if we can get out of Australia and do something in the UK or the US or something, like with a, you know, reasonably kind of notable artist, we think not only will it get our name out in different areas of the world, but it'll probably have a better, people like recognize it more here as well, you know, and it's going to push your name up here, you know, because you're like, oh, they worked in the UK with such and such.
Yes.
So I think that's kind of like what's next that we want to try and get to. But, you know, it's kind of like how do you just get that momentum going, you know? So one thing was that video you were talking about in Sydney, because that guy's from the UK. So that was something where we didn't make the most money off of it because it was just like a quick kind of thing, like while he was touring. We didn't make much money. We didn't get enough time to edit it that we would like. And even shooting, we didn't get as much shooting time as we wanted with him, you know? So all these things working against us, but I think the end product is still good. And for us, it's like a stepping stone. Okay, like if we do that for, you know, not much money, maybe we can get something in the UK next that's bigger than we've ever got here, you know? Yeah. So it's kind of like if you were to start working for someone for free, you know, like it's that kind of thing, you know, you got to prove yourself first. So we felt like, oh, okay, we've proved ourselves in Australia, but overseas, no one knows us. So we've got to prove ourselves again in this kind of way, you know, so.
That leads to a good question. Should people work for free?
I mean, I've done it. Yeah. I've definitely done it before when I think there's something to learn, you know, like if it was like with someone like yourself and it's a certain project that I think, oh, okay, this is different and I might be able to learn something here, I'd probably consider doing something for free. Why not? You know, especially if you don't have anything on, you know. And I think definitely earlier on, but the further you go and the more the bigger your name is, or the more stuff you've done, I guess the less it should be an option for you, you know.
Yeah.
Even if it's, you know, even if it's not your full day rate, but if it's something you want to be involved in and they actually value your skill set, there should be some money there,
compensation.
Right? Yeah. Because it's like, if it's your full-time thing as well, like you can't be doing stuff for free, you know, like I was talking to a friend and it was like, they had the similar thing, and it's like, you want to do cool stuff and you want to be involved in cool stuff, but cool stuff doesn't pay the bills. You know, that's kind of where it's at when you're trying to do it full time. You know, if it's a side hustle, you have more freedom. You know, if you're working through the week and you have a wage or whatever coming in, you know, that covers all your expenses and whatever, and there's something on the weekend you can work for free for.
Yeah, you can afford to take more risks.
Why not? Yeah, because you can afford to. But if it's your full-time thing, it shouldn't really be an option anymore, I don't think.
Yeah, and I think it should be something used very strategically. Like you were saying, elaborating on top of that, like, if you think it's going to lead to where you're trying to go, or it's people that you really respect, and you're like, you know what, I'm sure I'll learn one or two things, because this is what happens. A lot of people, I think, they also get too cocky too quickly. No, I wouldn't do it for free or whatever, blah, blah, blah. And you look at their work or what they're doing or how they're struggling. It's like, buddy, you know, come and you will learn something. You know, like learn when to compromise and with whom you're compromising.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
Because I've done plenty of jobs for free. And some of them were with my best mates, you know, years ago. And if I didn't do those jobs, I wouldn't be where I am. You know, sometimes I will show up to something that I wasn't expecting much of it or whatever, and I learn a really important lesson. Or something went terribly wrong, and I was like, that can never happen to me. You know?
Yeah, definitely.
That leads to my next question. What's the worst thing that's ever happened for you on a shoot or on a project, on a client project? Give me a couple.
I think like, I'm just trying to think, man. There's been a lot of valuable lessons. I think, you know, some expensive lessons, I guess, you know, as well, in terms of like the project and stuff like that, and what people are paying and stuff like that. But yeah, there's nothing really that sticks out to me. Like, I've had funny things happen. Like, I was just shooting a thing for like a friend's production company, and like it was an event with Shaq. He's like a basketball player. Like,
yeah. Of course. And who doesn't know Shaq?
Yeah, okay, who doesn't know Shaq? But like, we were kind of out the back of the store, and then we were coming back out, and I didn't realize he was right behind me. And there was all this like people coming. There were people at the front of the door, and he stuck behind me in like this little corridor. Yeah. And then next minute, like, he smacks me on the bum. And he's he goes, "Hey, big fella, you gotta move. You're in my way." And I was like, "Oh,
you're telling me Shaq smack your bum?"
Yeah,
no
like full,
way.
like bang. And he was like, "Hey, you gotta move, big fella." You know, like, and I was like,
"What the fuck?"
And it's
how
like one
is
of
that real life?
Yeah. It's just one of those random situations, bro. You know, but I guess like I was kind of like, did that just happen? You know, and I went back. That's
that's too good, dude.
But like, no one else saw it because we're in this little corridor. Yeah. No one else saw it. I was telling someone about it afterwards. They're like, "What?" And I was like, "Yeah."
Shaq slap your ass. How good is that?
Hey, but like, I wasn't gonna fight him over it, you know. Like,
no, imagine. Yeah. Oh, that's just funny, dude. Yeah, I mean, he seems like such a nice guy.
Yeah, he was. Yeah? But like, I think he was just a bit over the events like that. Because when he was in Australia, he was just doing events like that. You know, he was doing meet and greets photos, and it was another one of those. So I think for him, it was kind of a bit like, oh yeah, you know, he was kind of like, just wanted to come in, take the photos, and leave. You know, he wasn't too invested in people and stuff, but he invested in something. But
he invested into the
most random thing. Yeah.
Oh, bro, that's so good.
I guess valuable lessons though is kind of, you know, I guess when the stakes are high, it's kind of like you need to really plan ahead when the stakes are high. You know, like if you have something like, we've done a few shoots with that, like the robot arm type of motion control capture stuff. And like that is like, you know, $10,000 a day or $8,000 a day, whatever it is, you know. And it's like, when you have that on set, you need to plan around that, you know, because it's not the easiest thing to set up, that robot arm stuff. It's not the easiest thing to set up, and it's also heavy and it takes time. And just all that kind of stuff, you know. So we've learned a lesson where we didn't make the most of the time with that. And afterwards we were kind of like, damn, like you know, we didn't make the most of having that there. There was a lot of other things we could have done, and we should have dedicated nearly that whole shoot, that whole night of shooting to just that one thing instead of trying to do all the other stuff we were trying to do in between, you know. So I think like, yeah, lessons like that, I guess. But we haven't really had any like huge, I mean, disasters and stuff. We've had stuff where like police have shown up and different things, but you know, it's all part of it, you know. It's all part of capturing that too. We had this one video where we were it was from maybe like October last year, and we shot it in Melbourne with these guys called the HP Boys, and we were in like their area, and there was like 300 people there. They had like all these cars, all these motorbikes, burnouts. It got out of control though. Like people, like there was so many burnouts happening. We're trying to shoot it all.
Is that the one that you had Alex Volkanovski?
Yeah. So yeah, and then like UFC champion Alex Volkanovski came to the shoot.
Yeah.
So he was in some shots, and then do you know Hasbulla?
Yeah, of course.
The little guy, he was meant to come too.
Oh, he was meant to.
He was meant to be there, so
Oh,
that's why there was like 400 people there.
that's
because they all
hilarious.
came
just to see him.
Yeah, but he didn't end up coming because like he kind of was like he was in the city and it was like half an hour from the city or something, and then I think he just said I don't want to do it.
How old is
But I don't know, he's like 20 or something. But
Does someone speaks for him?
he hadn't. Yeah, I actually met him. I actually met him at like an event thing, but he has like an interpreter guy, but he speaks a little bit of English. Like,
Okay.
yeah, but I think like they explained it to him, and then he was like, didn't want to do it.
Yeah, right.
You know, so, but that ended up being like they blocked off the streets, and then like this person had this box of like fireworks, and I didn't know what it was, and he threw it out in the middle of the road and then lit it, and I was like, what is that? And then next minute,
Yeah.
and this is like 10 o'clock on a Wednesday night in the suburbs,
Yeah.
and then like police come, and there's guys with flares, and like the police weren't coming to try and arrest anyone because there's too many people.
Yeah.
But they started blocking off all the roads so you couldn't get out. So we once we saw all that, we're like, nah, back in the van, all the gear, and just like tried to go the back streets and get away, you know, because like, yeah, it just got so out of hand really quickly. But yeah, I think nothing disastrous has really happened to us on a shoot.
Did you had I remember off the top of my head like some sort of a funny experience that you had with Alex Volkanovski?
Oh no!
I'm gonna let you on the street.
Yeah.
Say what was it? Can't remember.
Well, it was in the middle of that exact shoot.
Yeah.
And then for some reason, like I stepped forward, and because it was like crazy, and there's like burnouts going on, and there's so many people and stuff, and we're trying to just shoot. I called him Steve with like so much, like with so much commitment. I looked him in the eyes, and I was like, Steve. I was like, Steve, step forward. And he looked at me, and I was like, come forward. And then he just looked at me for a second and was like, what? But it wasn't until afterwards I said to one of the guys, I was like, oh man, it was so cool, like having Steve Volkanovski there. And he's like, Steve? And I go, it's Alex Volkanovski. I was like, wait. And I was like, oh man, I called him Steve, like to his face, like this far apart. I said, hey Steve, step forward, throw us a few jabs to the camera or something, you know? And then like,
I'm dying.
I told the guys who we shoot Eternal with.
Yeah.
And the next time we're at Eternal, he was there.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Oh no. Did you say hi to him?
Briefly.
Hey,
But
Steve.
it's funny, like as a joke afterwards, I messaged him on Instagram and I said, thanks for coming to the shoot, mate. Sorry for calling you Steve. And he replied and said, you call me Steve? Oh shit, don't worry about it, all good, you know.
Oh, that's
and he actually replied to it. I was like, oh my god.
Man, he seems like one of the coolest human beings.
Yeah,
let's clip this for the future when we have it on the podcast. Oh my god.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
So yeah, that happened. But
that's awesome, dude. Tell me something. For someone that is getting started, they look at the work that you guys produce, and they'll feel very, belittled by looking at this kind of work. What would you tell to someone that is, let's say, they haven't been doing this for a long time, and they see the kind of work that you guys produce, and instead of being inspired by it, they're like, fuck, I could never do something like that. And they feel it's kind of like generating the opposite of it. What would you tell to someone like that?
I think we have the same thoughts when we see other work, you know. It's kind of like we see something from someone like Valentin Petit, you know. He's like a director who unfortunately passed away just recently. But his work's exceptional, you know, music videos, brand campaigns, and like we look at his stuff and we're like, damn, you know. So it's like no matter where you're at, there's always someone that makes you feel that way. There's always going to be something or like a piece of work that you look at and be like, that's crazy. Like, and then you feel like all the stuff you've done before doesn't mean anything, you know, even if you've been doing it like, we've probably been doing it like 7 years now as like a, you know, as our full-time things for either Culture Kings or Kevin was just doing his own thing with music videos and stuff, you know. So even though like you've done it for 7 years and you feel like you're kind of at a certain level, there's always something that's gonna make you feel like, oh man, we're not anywhere near where we could be or need to be, you know. So I think keep that in the back of your mind. Like even though you look at something and you go, damn, that's crazy, but we were once just like two guys who like were just taking photos in the city, and our photos sucked, you know. And it's kind of like the repetition and being able to do it and have that just like passion behind it. I think if you just keep getting the reps in and you find the right people to connect with and learn from, it's not, you know, like I would even say like editing like Kevin, that intimidates me still, you know, even though I work with him. But I'm like, oh, I couldn't do that because it's like he went down that path. But there's probably certain aspects of shooting and stuff that maybe he couldn't do like I can, you know. So, you know, you're not always going to be like 100% across the board as good as every person who specializes in things. But if you just find what you're good at and work at it, and if you love doing it, it's gonna fuel it and make you keep going, you know.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you and Tom were talking about being obsessed, and it's like, oh, okay, yeah. Back in the back of my mind, I was like, am I obsessed? But I think I am.
think
and
you are.
it's that thing. It's that thing, you know,
are.
like, I've never thought of it as like an obsession, but it's like, yeah, just you see something and you're like, oh, that'd be cool for a shoot. Like I'll just be driving through the city and like my head starts turning. I'm looking for like locations for shoots and stuff, you know, or whatever it is. Cause you never know when you'll need something in future.
Yeah.
Those kind of things where it's like becomes part of your daily subconscious habits where you're like looking for locations to shoot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or you're just like, you see like someone on like an Instagram video or something, and you're like, oh, that person would be cool if we ever had like a project like this. And you just keep them in mind.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And then like down the road, you end up actually working with them on something because you saw them in this one thing, and then you end up getting them for actually something you're working on. So there's heaps of stuff like that where it's kind of been, and to go back to it, I mean, like if someone saw the work that we're doing, it's like we were all just like, started at the same point, you know, picked up a camera and started doing something. So it's kind of like, it might feel intimidating, but, you know, if you're willing to do the hard work and you're willing to, you know, network and find people to teach you and stuff,
Yes.
you're gonna get somewhere. You're gonna get somewhere, and it might even be above where we are. You know?
Yeah.
It's just like you have to make those steps though.
That one, especially the second one, finding a mentor, it's a huge one. If you can find someone that is doing the thing that you want to be doing, your journey will be accelerated by 10x. You know, it's crazy how fast you can get to where you're trying to go if you find the right person to tell you where the path is.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're just not on the right track of getting there, you know, and you need someone that is, it's been there, done that, and can tell you, hey buddy, it's not that way, it's this way.
Yeah,
you know, like it happened for me. If it wasn't for my friend Guillaume, you know, like he was way ahead of me when I met him. And because you know, this is another thing, like don't just go to someone and be like, hey mate, it's awesome what you're doing, how can you help me get there? No, like provide value. The relationships have to be symbiotic. You know, if you become a parasite, nobody will want to help you. Nobody will want to, you know, tell you what to do. Some people might start doing it. I do it. You know, I start telling people, yeah, you should do this and that. But if you just continue to be a parasite, it's unlikely I will continue to help you, just because I'll get a sense of who you are and what you're trying to do, you know, and it's like, what's in there for me, you know, because I'm giving you my time, and the more you grow within what you do, your time is worth more money, you know, my time is worth money. So like, I'm not going to put my time into someone that is just trying to take and not give. Yeah. So find ways to provide value. Back then I found ways in providing lots of value to him, and guess what? He just started sharing because good people will want to share things with you, especially when you provide, give. They will feel like, fuck, I need to give something back. I feel like that when someone is giving me a lot of value, I'm like, shit, I need to give something back to this person because I feel terrible if I'm not. So find ways to provide value, and value is subjective. So value sometimes is money, value sometimes is, help with something specifically for that person. So find what's valuable to that specific individual, try to provide, and you will see some sort of return on investment in that relationship. But if you can find someone that is ahead of the game, it's just gonna help you get there way quicker than trying to do it all by yourself.
Yeah.
And that took me a long time to understand. And probably I would have been a millionaire by now in the real world, because I am a millionaire already, just hasn't manifested into this physical realm. But I'll probably already be there if I have talked to the right people back then.
Yeah, and I think like a big thing that we've tried to do, like I said, building a team, trying to build a team. It's kind of like guys who have been part of the team and have kind of come and gone. They're doing good work for themselves now, and it's like they're nearly like, they're stepping up and making a name for themselves as well. And it's not just off the back of Moonboy Studios or something like that. It's like, no, they've actually gone and started directing and editing and doing all their own stuff and learning and becoming like way better filmmakers. Like I would say like one or two of them are probably better editors than I am now because they've gone and applied all this stuff they've learned from Kevin and like learned stuff themselves.
Sick.
And I think for me and Kevin and also Carlin, it was like a big thing for us was like, if we can remove just some of those road bumps for people that we've faced,
Yeah.
And it's not even people that we know. Like even if it's through a YouTube video or through just like answering someone's questions on Instagram, like if we can just remove a few roadblocks for someone,
Feels so good. Hey?
Yeah, and it kind of makes you think, oh, okay, but like you said, I'm like, but damn, I wish that we had us back then to ask.
Yes.
Exactly. I wish that we were in the position that some of these guys who are like 20, 21 are now, where they're kind of like underneath us and like kind of asking us questions and seeing how we do things and why we do things and how we light things and coming on set and setting up lights and then being like, well, okay, for my shoots, I'm going to set up my lights like that. I'm going to make sure I have this gear, whatever it is, So yeah, I think that all of us never really had that. Like I had a guy who I did weddings with, who was a friend from like even back in high school days. He just started doing weddings and he was really good. And I shot some weddings with him, and he taught me a lot about storytelling, like visual storytelling, and like even like about, it was quite near the start of my video career or whatever you might say. And he just taught me like some of the basics about like frame rates and stuff like that. Like things like that that. Before then, I was like, "Oh, it looks all good on the screen. Let's hit record," and I didn't realize I was doing things wrong, So, I think from that, it's like I have had certain people that have taught me a lot, and sort of contributed to the journey, but I haven't had like a mentor as such that I feel like could have, like you said, could be maybe 5 years ahead of where I am now,
Yes.
But I guess like you can't look at it and be like, oh damn, like that's not a reason to never get there.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's probably more of a reason to like go, okay, just have to work twice as hard now, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So
why do you think most filmmakers, freelancers, and even some video production owners struggle? Why are they so many struggling artists, starving artists?
It's probably like a bunch of reasons, right? It's probably like imposter syndrome, like not thinking you're worth what you should be charging.
Yes.
Maybe even like coming from like a mindset of like scarcity, like you don't think there's enough work. What else? Probably like just knowing that it's quite a saturated industry. I think like it's becoming more. It's becoming more like romanticized, I guess you might say, or like, oh, that'd be sick. I want to do videos, totally. Like, so everyone's trying to have a crack at it. And it's kind of like, you see like more and more people trying to do content and do videos and do films and music videos and stuff. And it's like, oh, okay, you probably feel like there's a lot more competition there as well. So you might cheat yourself out of work, or you might, doubt yourself along the way and stuff, so it's probably a bunch of different things, but I think it probably is the self-doubt and maybe, yeah, Yeah, I'm not really sure, but I think definitely like I think we were talking about this last time I was here, and it's like, are you a businessman or are you a technician? You know, and you kind of need to find that out early, because if you're a technician and you're just about the art and stuff, there's probably businessmen that will hire you to fill those roles and do a damn good job at it.
Yep.
But if you're a business person who also does filming, then you're probably more equipped to do the entrepreneur freelance type life.
Totally.
Because you're going to be thinking about obviously like making money, you know, and like you know, money does buy the freedom to then do what you want. So
absolutely,
I think a big thing that we're trying to focus on now is like how do we set up some of these like more passive side of incomes, you know. How do we, if we're on a shoot and we have like a whole set up, how do we shoot some stock footage to put on a website and sell?
Yes.
You know, all these little things that like could, you know, they're not going to be an overnight thing, but if you do them consistently for a year, you know, they could all generate their own little bits of income and stuff, you know, even if it's like LUTs, presets, all these things that we haven't really done yet. But I feel like we have an audience where they might have some success if we were to do it, you know. So I guess it's like, yeah, being smarter about money is probably like the biggest part, you know. I think all of us aren't really businessmen in our team, but we're learning slowly, you know, like, and I guess it's all part of it, right? As long as you're moving towards it and you stop making those same mistakes that you've always made, and you start realizing where you can do better and actually doing better, I think it keeps you on the right path. But I think that might be the main thing that a lot of creators struggle with. It's just the money side, right?
Yes. And I think it takes a long time for creators to realize like, oh, you're just not a videographer or photographer, you're probably a business owner, you know, for most of them. Some of them will be just freelancers or whatever, but still you have a business. So if you don't learn how to run a business, you can be doing awesome projects, but are those projects being profitable? How much are you keeping, you know, after you do the project? If you were to hire someone like you to get the project done, because usually what happens as well is a creative will take a project and they're like, you know, they take a month to get it done. If you, and they were like, oh, I charged 10K for it. It's like, wait, but it took you a month to do it. How many days were you working on? How many days of shooting? How much, you know, how much editing, how much in terms of gear and stuff. So by the end, you're minus 10K.
Yeah.
You know, so if you were to hire someone to get that job done and it would have taken a month, you will be bankrupt, right? So it's understanding how like the basics, I think, of business and changing that mindset of I'm just a creative to I'm a business owner was a big step for me. And I've seen that it's very difficult for creatives in general just to step into that new role. And it changed everything, man. Just understanding value, understanding pricing. I will add to everything that you mentioned, sales and marketing. If you're not doing sales and marketing, that I wasn't doing for a long time, it hurt me in every possible way as a business owner, you know. So understanding how to sell, communicate your value, what you're doing, learning how to close people, and then having a way to bring consistent people that are in need of your services and that they are in pain, in that sense that they have a pain, that your service can act as a vehicle to solve that pain, to take them from a point A to a point B and get certain result that person is after. If you can learn how to communicate that and not selling videos but selling outcomes, by selling results, that's the biggest change I've noticed for my business and for the people that are making serious money within the industry.
Yeah, I think that's something that we're still learning to do in our business, you know. Still learning to because it's like, oh, you could get X amount of money and then pay everyone to make it really good and stuff, and then you walk away with this much and the business makes this much, and it's like, oh, okay. But then it's like, is that 3 weeks or a month of time of everyone's focus and energy and everything, is it going to be worth what's actually left at the end, you know? Because I think like right now we're kind of in that mode where we're just, it's all ins and outs, right?
Yes.
And it's just like have more ins, have less outs.
Yes.
So I guess that's what we're trying to do at the moment, is kind of like, and if it is an out and it is a big out, or it's a big expense, like you might say, like how much value is it going to bring back? You know, like shooting a project and having a guy with an ARRI and you know, the first AC and having a good gaffer, how much are all these roles that we'll have to pay out? Is that going to then lead to us getting more stuff in that space and making money down the road long term? You know, which I think the answer is yes, but I mean, we've only started really kind of doing that, so it's kind of like, I guess, just a wait and see thing, you know. But for us in future though, like we want to try and sell a package where that's covered plus whatever we're actually making as a business, you know. So like, if you want the nice camera, if you want the big crew or whatever it is, it's going to be this much, you know, because then you know it's covered, and then you're not worrying about, and then you don't have to go to people and be like, oh, I know your day rate's $3,000 for you plus the camera and stuff, but can you do it for $2,000? Because like we've had to do that here and there, you know, just to make it fit.
We all have to do it.
Just to make it fit though, you know. But it's kind of like, if you do have a bit of leverage, like you said, and you do have kind of a name, and the project's a cool name or a good brand or a good artist, people are willing to come to the party for different amounts.
Yeah, exactly.
And I guess that even touches back to like that working for free thing. It's like, if you think it's worth it, like if we reached out to someone and it's the first time we've reached out to them and they want to work with us, they might do something for less, you know. But it still feels bad.
Yeah, because you want to pay
still feels
people
bad like leveraging someone like that, you know.
But totally. But sometimes it's just like that, depending on and as well on the budgets and stuff.
Exactly.
What's the worst piece of advice you have ever received?
The worst piece of advice? I don't know. I probably didn't listen to it. I hope. I hope I didn't listen to it. I didn't even know. I think I'm quite selective of who I take advice from. So maybe there has been no bad advice, maybe. Yeah. Just if anyone told me to shoot on Nikon, maybe.
Yes.
I know there's probably one or two people who said shoot on Nikon. I don't like that. You need to get away from me, man. Yeah. But I think like I said, like maybe I'm careful of who I take advice from, because like there's this thing that one of my friends was talking about. This is years ago. And he was like, oh, you know, don't get caught up in like anything like online and all that. You know, like if you post something and everyone's like, yeah, it's amazing, whatever. It's like, okay, cool. You know, learn to take compliments, but don't like get an ego from it. You know, like stay humble and stuff like that. But like one thing he said to me was like that he tries to do, or he had been doing, is like taking, you know, having like 15, 20 people who he holds their opinions in high regard, if you know what I mean. You know, so like you're not just like getting an inflated ego from every person who's like, oh, that's sick or whatever, and you're also not getting deflated by people who go, oh, that could have been better, or that was shit, or whatever it is, you know. But having those people that, you know, like kind of like mentors in a sense, or people in like the like-minded space. Like if you were to give me feedback on something, I'd take it on, you know. But then if it was some random guy on the street or someone I don't know, number one, show me your work. Number two, what have you done to make me like value your opinion, you know? So I guess that's that, you know. It's kind of like if you have a handful of people that you can trust their opinions and they'll give you constructive feedback, and like it's not just a random person online being like that was shit or whatever, you know. It's like keep those people around you, you know, because like they're valuable. Even the guy who I did weddings with, who I told you about, who taught me like some of the basics of video when I first started. Like we're having dinner tonight. You know, like cool. we're still, and it's like he went from doing weddings to portraits to full-time YouTube now. Yeah. You know, and he's made that his lifestyle, which is nice. For me, I'm like, damn, you know, that's cool. That's awesome. That's cool, because like that's something that I guess everyone kind of would want to do. Yeah. But he's someone whose opinion the whole time I've valued, even though we don't see each other all the time and stuff like that. Every time I really need someone's opinion on something or some advice, I'll try and ask him. Yeah. You know? Yeah, 100%. Filtering opinions is important. What are the best 3 pieces of advice that you can give to the young version of yourself, or young or even old creative entrepreneurs out there that could make their life easier, that will save them some pain? It could be any area of life, like relationships, money, business, entrepreneurship, health, whatever you continue. If you die tomorrow and you can only leave 3 pieces of advice to all these individuals to make their life better, what would you say, Mr. Jacob? I would say I had something and it went. Damn. Okay, I would say that like never be afraid just to like to put yourself out there, you know, because like if you limit yourself, whether it's like by doubting yourself or your own skills and stuff like that, you're never going to know what could have been, I guess, you know. So like always, like if you're like, oh, I want to work with this person, just send them a message or find a way to get in contact with them or whatever it is, you know. Don't just be like, oh no, it'll never happen, because if you never do it, it'll never happen. But I've had some crazy opportunities come from just a simple Instagram message, you know. So I think like that's probably number one. Like, don't be afraid to reach out, and then also like the importance of like networking, you know, the importance of finding like a network of clients that you get along with and you can work with well, and then also team members, and then also just other creatives in the same space, you know, because there's always going to be someone who can go, oh, I can't do that, but these guys can.
Yes.
And they'll pass someone along to you. And if you have like that little ecosystem around what you do, I think it's going to be good long term for getting your name out there, branding, you growing your business, whatever it is, you know, and just also just having like a good group of people around you that are just going to support each other along the way, because everyone, like you said, everyone comes along similar things in their own right. Yeah. I think one that I've learned over the last like 6 months is like just to try and get healthy. Yeah, I think for me, like it's kind of been a thing that's I've always kind of struggled with, but it's something that I've realized in the last 6 months to like the last year that I probably need to get on top of, you know. I'm not getting any younger and stuff, so it's like if I don't make those changes, like am I going to be around long enough to do what I want to do, you know?
Yes.
So I think that's very important as well. The last bit of advice, I don't know, like just like if you work at it, if you work at something, like I think it might not feel like you're getting anywhere, but eventually like I think you said this last time I was here as well. It's like you feel like you've worked hard out for like the last like year or so, and then only in the last month, it's kind of felt like it's come to fruition.
Yes.
Yeah, as long as you kind of know, as long as you're on the right direction, doesn't matter the speed, right? You know, like all that kind of stuff. It's like a metaphor or whatever, but I think it's true. You know, like the whole time ever since I started doing stuff with a camera, I've known like what direction I've been going in. I just want to do. I guess my thing was like I just want to do cool stuff that people can look at and be like, damn, that was cool, or they get inspired by it, or tells a story, all those kind of things, you know. And if I'm doing that, then the money side has always kind of been second to me, you know. But it's only now after years of doing it like that where the money side started coming along as well, you know. And it's like, oh, okay, like we can make decent money off this, you know, like we can grow our business further, we can do things. Like you were saying, sales and marketing, we've never done that before. Like we haven't
Better
like
get on top of it.
I mean, but like it's a blessing, and also it's like a thing like, oh, if we did that, where could we have gotten to? But we've always felt like we've been busy, you know. So it wasn't until quite recently where I'm like, oh, if we were doing that, could we have had higher ticket clients? Could we have had bigger brands on board earlier, or whatever it might be, you know, through certain advertising sort of things, or whether it's just running ads or whatever it might be. So I think the biggest part is just posting on social media, though.
Yeah, as well.
Like we haven't even been doing that consistently. So that's the first step. And then from there, like we've just got a website. We didn't have a website for the last year because our last one was kind of like bugging out. So we just took it down. But it didn't stop things from coming along, though. You know, so like blessed in that concern, but also like, something that we probably should have been on.
Sick, brother. Man, this was, we're going to have to do a round 2. That was awesome.
Oh, thank you.
You're freaking incredible, man. What you guys are doing, it's amazing. Like nothing short of spectacular. So please keep doing it, keep crushing it. We'll definitely love to have the other half of Moonboy. And dude, where can people find you? Like get in touch with you, see your work?
Well, the website's coming along still, but like just like Instagram is probably our thing at the moment. So just like at Moonboy_studios. Kevin's is at Moonboy._ and I'm at Alter Ego Visuals. There's an underscore in there somewhere as well. I always forget where the underscore is in my own thing.
It'll be linked below.
There'll be a link below. But that's kind of where we're at in terms of like our work and stuff like that. But I've been too quiet on socials, man. I got to start I got to take your book and do a video a day or something like that.
Yeah, I like it, bro. And people need to find more about you. You're super interesting and you're crushing it. You could definitely provide a lot of value for creative entrepreneurs, which is my hope that today you got some little nugget for you to make your life easier. If you did, please don't forget to leave a like and a comment on the YouTube video. If you want to give the extra mile, if you really want to support the podcast to get it out there for as many people as possible and for us to keep bringing the best possible guest on the show, please leave a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. That's the biggest way to give back to the podcast. Make sure it's a 5-star review. Tell people what do you like about the podcast, about the guests, would you love for us to bring on, and that way I can see what's happening and what's the feedback that you guys are giving. Don't forget to follow us on every social media platform at The Creative Grid. I'm at Nelphilef, and I will see you on the next episode. Good vibes for everyone. You. How's that, brother?
Good, bro.
Yoo-hoo.